Christmas just around the corner and kids demanding gifts, there's a couple of games which promise more than just gameplay. I'm talking about peripherals, and in a world of games which are toys which are games, there's two major contenders this year. Skylanders Trap Team and Disney Infinity 2.0. We're going to find out which is best, for kids and gamers alike. To figure this out, we're going to be looking at the various elements which make for good games and for good toys, and then seeing which comes out on top. So without further ado, let's jump into our first category, story. Now, comparing these games is a little difficult due to the drastically different ways in which each is meant to be played. Disney Infinity is, after all, primarily a toy box game, where players create their own levels and run, jump and drive around them. Although the game does come packaged with levels that can be slotted onto the Infinity portal. The most fleshed out which the game actually comes with is an adventure through Avengers Tower and a frozen New York as Marvel's mightiest heroes, the Avengers. It's pretty standard fare which does little to inspire awe, but it's fairly important to remember that Disney Infinity is a game for kids, and as such a little laziness is to be expected, although definitely not praised. Environments are sparse, and in spite of the intentionally chilly setting, feel cold and bland, with little to do or enjoy.
Patience, my friend.
The story is pretty well realised, and characters act as they should, and seeing your favourite Marvel characters in Infinity's signature style does translate well, but once again laziness is the name of the game here, and Infinity's primary story often made me regret playing it, simply out of boredom. The other levels that come with the game aren't much better either, having been made in the Toy Box editor rather than as fully realised stories in their own right, something which really bothered me here due to the Toy Box's lack of power when compared to other user content games like Little Big Planet. Skylanders Trap Team, by contrast, is a vibrant, exciting game which actually spurs you onto each level at a breakneck pace. This isn't to say that levels are short. Each creature you trap, and we'll get onto that in a minute, comes with a full side quest which can range from something as simple as opening a path to a full physics-based Angry Birds parody called Mildly Irritable Sheep. The levels are fun and the cutscenes are amazing, often making me laugh out loud as the evil Chaos's plans go awry. The characters who, unlike the Disney cast, meant nothing to me, were immediately endearing and wonderfully put together. They're not complex, once again feeling geared towards younger players, but unlike the cold facade presented by Disney Infinity, didn't feel one-dimensional, even though the catchphrases and personalities could get a little bit cringeworthy at times.
A chompy mage, and you are not chompies, so I don't like you.
The voice acting is brilliant too, with names like Patrick Warburton and Troy Baker popping up in the cast. It feels like Activision really haven't underestimated their audience, which just flat out makes the game more appealing than Infinity.
Skylander to my ultimate challenge!
Sorry Disney, but this point goes to Skylanders. The next category is build quality and presentation. In the interest of fairness, I should mention that Trap Team was sent to us on Wii U, while Infinity was a PS4 copy, so naturally hardware should come into play at some point when we're discussing the relative graphical fidelity of each game. Let's start out with the models themselves. For those of you that don't know, Infinity and Skylanders are pretty oddballs in the video game world, as the way you acquire characters actually demands that you buy plastic toys with microchips in them and place them on a portal to get to the actual game. The models for both games are actually fairly high grade. You get 3 with Infinity as well as the Avengers Tower and 2 additional level pieces, and they're nicely stylized to fit with the other Infinity models. Iron Man is a particular favourite of mine, both in books and movies, so seeing him at 3 inches high, nicely modelled and coloured, was a joy. That said, the models do feel a little bit budget, especially when compared to the Skylanders ones. But that could be because Activision have made more money than God and already have tons of cash from Skylanders, while Infinity is a fairly new IP. The Skylanders models are, and I hate to say it, better than the Infinity ones. They're more detailed, they feel nicer to hold, they're less bland looking. I never thought I'd say this, given that the Infinity playset comes with some of the most iconic comic book characters of all time, but those characters do pale in comparison to the overall build quality of Snapshot and Food Fight. Even the Disney Infinity portal isn't as nicely crafted as the Trap Team one, which lights up and has a speaker in it. The graphics on the Disney Infinity 2.0 video game, though, are clearly all about one thing: style. This is, after all, the movie tie-in game to end all movie tie-in games, so a cohesive, overarching visual style has to be the name of the game here. One which doesn't undermine the cuteness of Donald Duck or the coolness of Black Widow, and I gotta say, they've managed it incredibly well. The art directors should be proud of themselves. The people who shouldn't be proud of themselves, however, are the animators, texture artists and programmers who managed to make this game look so dull on PS4. I just don't understand it. Framerate issues aside, the animation looks dull on all the figures. Even speed flying lacks any sense of actual motion, and everything feels weird and weightless. This is especially irritating during the pre-made toy books missions centered around platforming. Movements feel loose and floaty, and the game lacks polish overall. Nothing pops, which is inexcusable, especially with the processing power of the PS4 behind it. What's strange though is that once again Skylanders' vibrant colour palette and animations clearly overwhelm what should be, logically, a superior PS4 game. Unlike Infinity, here you can tell that every animator has poured time and effort into making each of the creatures feel awesome in and of themselves.
Hey Skylander! Have you seen any crazy nuts hanging around this place?
Once again, everything has a unified, overarching style, but here the bulbous eyes and beautifully rendered cartoonesque models don't have to coalesce serious with kiddie. There's no need to make Pirates of the Caribbean look similar to Monsters Inc. here, so the actual game looks and feels a lot more cohesive. Everything in the world shines with personality, and the overall presentation is incredibly well realised. The Academy, your mission hub, always has tons to do, and everyone looks distinct from one another without having to be a recognisable Disney character. The environments feel massive too, in spite of being largely corridors and small rooms filled with enemies, and pulling this off on the Wii U's minimalist hardware is really a feat of engineering. I also didn't notice any real drops in frame rate either, which was very, very impressive, given the amount of stuff that was happening on the screen at the same time. It just looks gorgeous, really. Because of this, the point has to go to Skylanders. The cutscenes are a joy to behold, and in-game characters have actually made me laugh numerous times with their fun, fluid, elastic, and charming animation. Especially the Chompy Mage.
Form of me!
Up next is value for money, and this I know will be the defining factor for a lot of people, so let's look at what you actually get in each of the playsets. In the Skylanders Trap Team set, you get 2 models playable with your game. You get a member of the Trap Team and a regular Skylander, both of whom can be leveled up and customized in-game for a nice little bit of replayability. The campaign is pretty long, and there's a ton of creatures to be caught and played with using the new trap system, by which one places a trap into the portal and captures the fallen enemy to use in their team. Naturally, this increases the roster of free creatures you can play with dramatically, as all of the game's bosses and sub-bosses are now playable, but there is a catch with this. You require plastic traps of the same element as the monster in question to play with your caught enemies. It's like Pokemon, but if every Pokemon type required their own Pokeball, and you had to buy them all in real shops for exorbitant prices. There are also gates in-game which shaft the player in the same way. Once again, these gates require elemental powers to open, much like in older Skylanders games with the ability system, but this time the Skylander in question needs to not only be of the same elemental type as the gate in question, but also a member of the Trap Team. I also figured out that it would cost you over $10,000 to get every single Skylander, and maybe around £100 or so to actually get to all of the content in Trap Team alone. God damn it, Activision, you were so close to being nice for once. Disney Infinity is no better with regards to money and plastic toys. The best non-LEGO movie of 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy, came out with no video game tie-in, instead opting to release a line of Disney Infinity characters to go with the movie. Getting these costs about £90. £90 for 4 plastic toys. I guess that's not so bad though for one simple reason. Disney Infinity, unlike Skylanders, is a giant sandbox. Content is, theoretically, endless for kids to enjoy, meaning that they're going to want to be bought plastic DLC less often, and to my knowledge there's nothing locked out content-wise simply because you've not got the correct figurine. Only characters themselves and occasional leveling options are actually restricted, but with far less frequency and far less obviously than in Skylanders. But I don't know whether or not that's just because Disney has become practiced in insidious corporate nonsense for longer than Activision. The game itself also has more meat to it. Characters in Infinity can race cars, fly planes, and fight bad guys. They may lack the fluid controls or polish that makes Skylanders such a joy to play, but for sheer volume of content, Infinity has far, far more to offer, especially for imaginative minds. Skylanders may have minigames, but Infinity has just infinite stuff. The playset also comes with more, with 3 playable characters rather than 2 and the level pieces. It may only be more in terms of sheer physical items, not quality, but gruel is always going to be cheaper than steak in this way. It'll keep kids happier for longer too, because with the toy box and children's naturally high tolerance for making nonsense a la LEGO, the content is literally infinite, even if the core production values are lower. The point has to go to Infinity here. Our final category is the actual gameplay itself, and gameplay-wise there is no contest. Infinity moves clunkily, and while the infinite content thing is nice, Skylanders is an actual streamlined video game. Both games let you level up your character and customize, but actually moving around the in-game world using the tools available and actually enjoying what's going on is easier and more fun in Skylanders than it is in Disney Infinity. Infinity may have a creation tool and home customization, but both are implemented clumsily, and navigating the 3D space is a nightmare in either. Skylanders might not have as much in the way of content creation, but at least the limited options you have at your disposal are universally entertaining. It works well as a fun little shooter romp, with the addition of trapping creatures as a charming bonus, with them chipping in and occasionally talking to the player as you perform actions from their place on the portal. It's kind of really not a competition in this regard. One is a competently made video game and the other is a competently made toy box. Games have gameplay, toys have imagination. I mean, for sheer variety's sake, once you've made a level in Infinity, you can drive, fly, shoot, and climb in some really fun ways. Ways that I kind of wish had been tackled by the Skylanders Trap Team guys. I don't know which I prefer in this respect. Both have great points, both have bad points. Point to both. And there you have it, the scores do speak for themselves. 3 to Skylanders, 2 to Infinity. Skylanders, it seems, is the better toy game hybrid for kids this Christmas. To be fair, Activision have been doing it longer, but if we're honest, there's really not much contest here. I had fun with Skylanders, and I didn't with Infinity. Maybe that's because I'm not creative enough, or my inner child is dead or something. I don't know. But what I do know is that Skylanders made me feel good. It was exciting, and I smiled more than I wanted to. It also made me want to buy more Skylanders, which is a problem. Anyway, if you enjoyed this review, then please don't forget to leave a like down below. If you disagree, then you can always comment. Don't forget to check out the Kilobits on Twitter at @thekilobits and on Facebook at facebook.com/thekilobits, while you're on the internet. I really hope that this impromptu buyer's guide has been helpful. I've been Toby for the Kilobits. Cheers for watching, guys. Bye!